Hi, welcome to Street in the Shift. I'm Bam this week. You'll notice we are missing Milton. That's Matt.
Right.
He's Bryn.
Hi.
He's got a new microphone. He's very excited. He's going to go into ASMR videos. He might abandon us too. Who knows? Maybe that's what Milton's off doing.
I have had some requests for ASMR videos in the past from my Instagram story.
You got no excuse not to do it now.
In which case, everybody, Bryn's just going to do ASMR for the next 2 seconds.
I'm going to clean my injectors this close to the mic.
So a couple of things today. You'll notice scrolling behind me is our new subscriber counter that we've built. So we're on 151 right now. You've watched our videos 5,983 times. And the number of videos that's up is 53 at the moment. When this goes live, it'll be 54. The other thing is, our good friend, the Ghost Outlaw, has released a charity calendar. So I am going to be dropping a link to that in the description. Head over and buy it. It is for... what charity was it again? The National Brain Appeal. So all good stuff, all important stuff. And yeah, we're really pleased to sort of help him out, trying to get a few more of them sold to raise a little bit of extra money for charities that we all know are struggling this year. So this week's topic is we're going to talk about what you really need to do when you're first starting out, when you get that first car, what you want to learn before you pick up your first set of spanners, your first ratchet, your first torque wrench. And I think the first thing we can all agree on, having witnessed certain things, is don't go straight for the Ugga Duggers. It's a bad play.
Also, don't go on the Facebook group for your car and ask a question. Just ever. Just never.
Yeah, only
Incorrect,
time,
Bryn. Go on and ask exactly which is the best oil for that car. If you're not sure, dump 10W40 fully synth in it.
Like if somebody says I don't know what oil to use, my automatic response is any oil is better than no oil. But you are better putting the correct grade in.
That is a response, certainly. There are some oils that I wouldn't put in some cars. That also is a thing.
Vegetable oil?
Yeah. Yes, like Will's Landy, which would only run on the thickest oil in the universe because the bearing clearances were so great that you could just rattle the crank around by hand.
What I found interesting was when I looked up what's recommended for the RX-7 being a rotary. It was 0.20
Crude.
mineral oil.
Crude oil. Just crude oil straight out the ground. Not even recycled through a chemical plant dinosaurs.
Pretty much.
What you want to do is you want to go to Wilco and you want to grab the Wilco Basics mineral oil because they're like the only people who still sell it.
I've got some in the boot of it, to be fair.
There you go.
But I'm taking out the OMP so I can put fully synth in and run it on two-stroke.
Yeah, like a real man. Right. If you're a real man, you get to the petrol station in your rotary and you pull out your little bottle of Castrol R, strawberry scented, and you just tip that motherfucker in there.
Demonetized by Bryn again this episode. First swear.
Just bleep that. Just bleep that.
No, Bryn. What I do is every episode I wait for you to swear so it's your fault we get demonetized, and then I just open the fucking tap.
You know that.
What if I give you something now that you can put over me saying motherfucker, right? You ready? Okay.
Right.
I'm gonna say the thing and then you can just chop out the word. And what you do is you just pour that little bottle of Castrol in there.
I might. Do you know what I might do? I'm leaving this in. This is going. So I think it's worth all of our fans knowing as well tonight. Bryn's on the gin, and I'm on the special cider.
I think tools is a good subject to go on to. So just what basic tools you should have. Torque wrench we've mentioned.
Yep.
basic socket set that any piece from Halfords is good.
5 10 mil sockets.
Yeah. I think
Don't let them be
open-ended.
next to each other because they'll run away with each other.
Yeah.
They'll like pair
But
off or form the Sockets Liberation Army, and you'll never see them again.
what else was I going to say? You put me off track.
Ring span.
Ring spanner set.
Ring spanners, which if you get the big Halford set, you get with them anyway.
You get some ratcheting ones, but it's kind of something you can get away with until much later on. But
Yeah, I only recently got ring spanners.
I'm a
Yeah,
big
at
fan
some
of.
point
I'm
you
a big fan of ratchet-headed ring spanners with the flexible end on.
That's what I've got. But on the back of your broken ratchets, a breaker bar.
Yep.
breaker bar, really.
I've got two. So I've got one that's about 30 centimeters, so that when you're lying under your car on axle stands, there's room to move it.
Yeah.
And then I've got one that's twice that for the big stuff, wheel nuts and that sort of thing, because then you don't break your ratchets trying to take stuff off.
Yeah.
Screwdrivers, basic screwdriver set, flatheads, crossheads, that sort of stuff.
Well,
You're
there
working
you
on
go.
modern cars, Torx and Allen head stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got all
Jeremy
that.
Clarkson tool,
Everybody needs a hammer.
hammer. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to hit stuff.
I have
Sometimes
done some truly wondrous things in the past with an electric saw. That whole body kit, Bryn, that whole body kit on the Hijet picture will fly across the screen now. is made of old shop signs that we cut with the electric saw. What are you doing?
Don't buy an electric saw. Don't listen to this man. He's the exception to the rule. You should absolutely not electric saw anything on your car.
I mean, if you watch Chris's videos, there's plenty of footage of me with a recip saw hacking things apart, but it's not a good idea.
But you're
I think the
you're-
best
You
idea.
go, this needs to be removed. That recip saw, that looks fun.
Right, so no,
But
so
you're down
no, Matt, wait, 1 second. So the really important thing about a recip saw is what you do is you get underneath your Daihatsu Hijet with it, find the cat, and hack it off at the engine side of the cat.
the thing with your what you're
That
doing with Chris
unholy
is
noise that the Hijet used to make was just because I'd literally cut the exhaust off it.
Don't do that to your first car either.
no.
Yeah,
But
don't.
Bryn, you're far down the extensively modified route. So at that point, you're making such major modifications that you need to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
It still wasn't the best tool to cut those things out with, but it was close and it was amusing and it was really dangerous.
I think the reality is this. What everybody needs to remember about this is Bryn is a professional engineer who has a lot of fun and plays with tools all day, and when he picks up a tool to be an idiot with, knows what he's doing. I am a mad scientist who somehow, through sheer luck, hasn't cut a limb off yet.
I think I'm somewhere between the two of you.
Matt is our collective dad and teaches us how to use tools properly.
But I didn't always know what I was doing. It was only sort of kind of midway through uni that I properly started to learn things, because I'd had my own bike and I could work on it, but only to the level of knowledge of people around me. Because one of the best things, we've said watch YouTube and stuff, but one of the best things when you're learning to work on stuff is the people around you. And my friend Will taught me an awful lot of stuff. Like, I could use spanners, I could work on a car, I was learning all that myself, but I was scared of power tools because the torque from an angle grinder is enough to Wallace and Gromit me round and round and round because I don't weigh anything but power tools are scary, and if you're not used to them, it can be very daunting. But my friend Will, he kind of showed me how to use things like that. So another thing there is you learn from people around you quite a lot.
Yeah. I think you've got the caveat that comes with power tools is safety equipment as well. So gloves, glasses, ear defenders that we all use every time we get power tools out.
I do now, and I didn't when I didn't know what I was doing, which is the wrong way round. I don't know why I'm pointing at the microphone. Bad. It's the wrong way round.
Yeah.
What you've got to remember, Matt, is I don't wear safety equipment when using any tool on account of the fact that when me and Matt were in a work call this week, I slipped and put that through my knuckle.
And I've got to say, to be fair, whenever I've used an angle grinder or my Dremel or anything like that, I've always put safety glasses on of some description. They're foggy, they're coated in oil and they're chipped and I can't see, but I've always used them. It's only recently that I've started using ear defenders and gloves as well.
I actually know for a fact that the cutting discs on a Dremel love to break.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, Matt, you're 2 cutting discs down on your Dremel.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. They're weak as anything.
One of those fired off across our living room when I was building the screen for that thing. Like, yeah, just I would definitely say get yourself some safety goggles if you're gonna. And actually, you know what? Now I'm getting on a bit. I'll occasionally put safety goggles on if I'm going to be under a car on my back, undoing rusty bolts.
Yeah, rust in your eyes.
Yeah, I've done that just for rust. But I think if we're talking about going underneath the car, axle stands. If you're working with the car elevated or you're underneath the car in any way, shape, or form, put axle stands under it.
Yeah, don't stack bricks up underneath it.
No,
because sometimes they fall off sideways.
And I've even seen somebody have a Land Rover fall off axle stands, so it's securely on axle stands, and it still fell off.
Yeah, the second I get a workshop that's not my current workshop, I want one of those hydraulic lifts.
The quick jacks.
Yeah. And then I will still put some axle stands underneath that just in case it starts losing itself.
Yeah.
Like just put something to hold the frame solid in place. In the absence of axle stands, I have used a spare set of wheels I've had lying around before, but that's because I needed to get an arm under there, and the wheel was the right width to get my arm under there, and my axle stands were an hour's drive away.
But you do need something. I mean, every time I make this face, it's because one of these two mentioned something unsafe that I have done, and you really, really shouldn't. I've actually been saved by safety equipment a few times, and like it's no joke. And I still sometimes don't use it because I'm a fucking idiot. But like, you really, really, really should.
I think the thing with some of the safety stuff is, it's a little bit of being lazy. It's a little bit of it takes time, especially where we're all working on driveways. So every time I want to work on my car at the front of the house, I have to drag my jack, my axle stands, all my tools out of the shed, down the side of the driveway, put them all out, and then do what I'm doing. If I have to stop and go in for lunch, I have to take them all back again, lock them away, have my lunch, and then drag them all back out again. And it's being lazy.
I certainly wouldn't want to put a car on axle stands on your drive, because your drive's got a slope to it.
So mine goes up flat down the side of the house. That's where I work on the cars. The bit on the front that's sloped, I don't, because it'll just fall forward. The only time I have, so my driveway slopes, so you call it that, it's only a gentle slope.
Yeah.
If I have, I've only raised the front up so the car sits level, got chucks under the back and axle stands at the front.
Chocks.
I wouldn't chuck. Yeah, if you've only got one end up, chuck the back wheels. So the car sits level. So if it's going to run a roll, the chucks will stop it moving. I wouldn't do it the other way, where if it's that way, I jack the back up, because that's just physics.
Don't do it. It's bad. Cars fall off when you do that.
Yeah.
Like and like, you know, you will have a super expensive accident if you like, you know, I know plenty of guys we hang around with and associate now, with who, you know, they're not in the drift scene, so you guys probably spend a little bit less time around them. But they'll go out and they'll buy a car and they'll spend anywhere between $5,000 on finance to $20,000 on finance. And then they'll modify the car, and the finance company will not give a flying fuck about the fact that you know what you're doing and it's never happened before. They're still going to want their money, and you've still got to fix that car. Like, you know, I don't do it because certainly the stage year being an RS4S is a bollock to replace. The spike, I don't know where I'm finding another one in white. I've not seen another one in white anywhere. And the MX-5, if I find someone willing to part with an R Limited, then I've got really lucky. So just from that point, like, it's worth having the safety kit about.
I think the ultimate
but
cost...
also you can't replace your arm when your car lands on it.
Well, this is where I was going to go, is the ultimate cost is you're lying under your car and it falls off the axle stands and it's got no wheels on it. It's going to land on your head. Yeah. And there's no walking away from it. So it may be tedious and it may take more time and you may look stupid wearing all your glasses and stuff, but it's going to save your life.
Yeah, you can't look cool when you're dead.
But if you're wearing ear defenders, none of your neighbours will fucking disturb you. So, tip.
But, so get some ear defenders, but what we'll do is we'll release some ear defenders with just a recording of Bryn doing his ASMR voice.
So you can listen through through it the whole time.
Yeah. We'll release them at violentrunning.co.uk. There'll be just an audio recording of Bryn whispering gently into his mic how much he loves you.
Look how safe you're being. All of your friends are going to go deaf, and you'll still be able to hear. Good job. Don't straight pipe your car.
As a genuine thing, right? We've said to you, like, do this, do that. Do you know the most important thing you do? You experiment and you take yourself outside your comfort zone. Like, I post head injury, I would not have relearned the things I've learned that have meant that the intake on my MX-5 is in an entirely unique place. I've not seen anyone put it in an NA. It would mean that weird thing, if any of you have seen my MX-5 at an event recently, where it's got that louvered driver's side venting on the headlight cover, that's to feed cold air through the headlight, which no longer has a surround around the back, to the air filter, which is sat millimeters off that light. Absolutely millimeters off that light, and that's because it's the coldest place I can fit it in the engine bay right now. You know, other things, if you want to experiment, and Bryn does it, and Matt does it, and I do it, and in the background of two of our shots you can see them. If you can get one and you're moderately capable of figuring out basic shapes, buy a 3D printer and prototype your shit. Like, we know on Chris's videos that we see Bryn with his prototype whale dick out all the time. And it's a solid thing. We're not here to ruin your fun today. The key is, as Matt said, is learn to service your car. First thing to do, learn to service it. Because if you can't service it, you can't look after it properly. And you know what?
Yeah.
If you know that someone can service their car properly in this community, I would much rather buy a car off Bryn with no service history.
Bryn doesn't sell cars. He runs them into the garage.
I would much rather buy a car off Matt with no service history.
Yeah. Don't buy a car off me, right? Because the fact that I know what I'm doing means I know what I don't need to do as well.
None of my cars, from the moment they come into my possession, other than the Lexus, had a service history. And the Lexus only had a service history because, well, actually, Lexus services are really cheap in comparison to a lot of places.
I think the other thing to say here on the back of like buying and selling cars is, if you know how to service a car and you buy a car with no service history, you go and service it yourself, and
Yeah.
now it's got service history, and you know it's not going to fail because you've just serviced it.
We bought Amy's new truck. No service history. Started it up. I knew exactly what was wrong with it. I checked the oil level, knew exactly what the issue was, and within moments of us buying it, we were at Halfords with 10 litres of oil. And it's because the oil level wasn't completely gone, because I ran it and checked the oil again. So there was oil on the dipstick, but there was no oil on the dipstick, like, before we'd started it. But the guy was like, it starts, look, see. So by that point, you're committed, right? So you might as well take it out and have a look. Test drive it, check everything else mechanically is fine. Go and buy the oil straight away, get the oil in. Have a full service done to flush out that old engine oil you've just put in. So the new engine oil you put in, if the oil's low, run it for a few days, change the oil out again, so that you flush out any of the shit that's now in your new oil. I think that's a fair and reasonable thing, right, Bryn?
And your oil filter as well.
Yeah. And that truck runs like a fucking dream. 60,000 mile, 3.5 litre V6.
But I think learning some of this stuff as well lets you buy cars that are
Questionable.
quite underpriced for what they should be on the market.
Yeah.
When they just need a £5 part or an oil change or something.
Yeah, and you've got to look at last week's episode, right? Where I looked up the price of that Bentley that I want and no one's sent me $8,000 yet. It's disgraceful. It is disgraceful.
If everybody starts subscribing, we'll soon be able to monetize, and then we'll be able to do stupid things with Bentley.
Yeah. Subscribe's down in the bottom right, so do that. We've got all our socials up on the screen today. Maybe we should just not have Milton in future, and we can have
the socials instead.
Socials and the fancy
down
logo.
there.
That way, underneath, that way for me and Matt. You know, the reality is it's really easy to work on your car, especially if you buy an older car. And the rule that's coming in 2030, right? So we've got 10 years until we're all on hybrids, and the computer does everything for you.
So I think it's even more important to learn how to look after your car to make it last longer.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best things is you can just learn how, even if you don't have a car at the moment, maybe you're too young to have a driving license, you can't afford one or whatever, learn how an engine works. We'll learn how it works mechanically, learn the basics with the air and fuel mixture and stuff like that, so that when you get there, you've got some mechanical understanding. You know what's going on.
Like I'm from a bike racing family, as we know, and I built my first Caterham when I was 7 years old. Right now, the head injury meant I forgot everything, but actually, one of the things I'd say is if you're young and you love cars and you're like 14, 15, and you can get, I don't know what jobs, paper rounds, do they still exist? You know, go out, get a paper round, pick up a cheap banger, and build your first car. But like so you get the car, you're 17, you've built it, you take it out, and you've got this thing you can be proud of, right? Because these days not everybody knows how to work on their car.
Most people don't.
Most people don't, in fact. Like, I've had someone pull up next to me and go, "Oh, you're working on your car. Are you any good at cars?" Yes. What's wrong with my car? And my immediate response was, when was the last time you checked your oil level? Because what I could hear was dug, 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 from a petrol.
Yeah, you get that so many. Go and stand in Asda's car park or any other supermarket car park, and within 10 minutes you'll hear somebody with the bottom end gone, but they're still driving it around. Because they have no idea.
Top tip, don't just assume, you just need to check your oil at service intervals as well.
Definitely don't do that. Yeah, I had a friend who wrote off an engine and
especially if you've got a VW.
Yeah. What's that VW says? Vauxhall. But it was like, yo, there was no oil in this. Like, of course you broke it. And she's like, well, it's never used oil. How do you know? You haven't checked it. How do you know it's not using oil? That's why you're checking it. Clearly it used oil because there's no oil in it.
And the most important thing you've got to do with your first car, which is probably front wheel drive, is go to McDonald's, steal 2 trays, put them under your back wheels, and do skids in the car park.
And when you think they're probably worn through, stop, because I've literally firsthand watched somebody roll a Corsa when one of the trays went all the way through and their tyre suddenly bit.
I had a mate that did this with his Citroen C1 around Birmingham Wheels Oval. Trays underneath, handbrake all the way on, started doing skids because he was a drifter. He had an MX-5 and he could do that as well. What he didn't realise was the trays disappeared at some point. But because they're 165s, the tyres, they didn't stop him, and it was wet, and he carried on, and he had 2 really big flat spots.
But that segues you on to the next thing. So the first thing is buy a shit car, and actually buy a shit car if it's your first car, because you will crash it into something.
Yeah.
You will reverse it into a post box. Like, don't go, oh, I need a really nice car and save up for it, because you will 100% ruin the really nice car. Buy something terrible. So that's thing number 1. Buy something terrible. Thing number 2, just kind of do the basics, start working on it. You'll be amazed at how much it ups your confidence and lets you do other things. Thing 3, take your shit car to McDonald's or any other meet and meet other people with cars, because they will be the biggest help for you. They will teach you so much. Meet other people with your car and meet other people with cars in general.
And really crucially, don't assume that the guys that turn up there that are younger than you, because like Bryn is younger than me, believe it or
Younger
not.
than me as well.
We're both handsome bearded men, and everybody thinks I'm 12 and everybody thinks Bryn's 12. but like, don't assume, like, Bryn's the professional engineer here. I'm the mad scientist, and I will periodically go to Bryn, how bad of an idea is this? And Bryn will go, well, the science is there, but it's fucking stupid. Or you have those moments where I just ignore what every bit of conventional wisdom tells me, and I'll go for it. And you've got to have the confidence occasionally as you go outside your box. You will break stuff doing that. Like, I have broken parts. I have a workshop room that is full of my broken parts that at some point I intend to repair. Unless we move into a new workshop, in which case I'll get a skip and they'll go in there. But
I think there's a couple of other things that I should point. I would recommend for a new car, no matter how experienced you are, new tyres. Tyres. So the only thing that's connecting you to the road is tyres. Whether that be putting the power down, steering, or stopping. If you're in the pouring rain and you've got either bold or shit tyres, you're going to have a bad time.
Yep. Yeah. Tyres are like... Why is Matt being the dad to everybody that watches our videos tonight?
Because I feel
like I have to recommend doing proper redneck shit, right? Just because...
I never said get sensible tyres. I said get good tyres, which include semi-slicks.
He's sensible because he's done a lot of things and made mistakes and learned from them. That's important.
I've done a lot of things and made mistakes, Bryn.
Things.
So what's the...
I
have
done lots of stupid things, but they haven't bitten me in the arse yet. So
there we go. So what we've established there is, if you're going to a casino, copy what me and Bryn are doing and not what Matt's doing.
Don't copy what I'm doing. I'm just getting lucky here that none of this shit has killed me yet.
Yeah.
So
but in a casino, we've got the better luck, Bryn.
Here you have 3 kinds of logic. Matt has become sensible, learned from his mistakes. Bam is not learning from his mistakes and saying, no, the fact that this hasn't gone wrong is a good thing. I'm sat here like, this is definitely bad. I'm going to carry on doing it because I can't stop myself, but you shouldn't do this.
I think the thing about that is, like, I'm going to turn around and say, like, you know, don't try this at home is very much the story of like when we all get back together and we're in a workshop and you see me doing anything on the car that looks a little bit
Sketchy.
I'm like with you're talking about the man who has at one point gaffer taped a crow's foot to the end of a ratchet spanner just so that he could reach the thing. Like literally a metal bar gaffer taped at either end to the right bit.
It works. It works.
Yeah. So moral of the story is you see me doing something that doesn't look conventional, don't do it. Unless you realise where the mad scientist in me lives.
And do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Not as I do.
I think the thing to point out is doing stuff like taping ratchets and spars and stuff together. If it goes wrong, it's not going to kill you. It might hurt when the tape snaps and you smash your knuckles into something.
Yeah.
But it's not going to kill you. If you start playing around with angle grinders and other power tools and shit like that, that's where you have to sort of switch your brain on a little bit.
Yeah, and that is why when we're all in a workshop together, Bryn and Matt don't let me near the power tools.
Don't let me near the power tools either. None of us should.
Pretty sure we just make Matt use the power tools. Actually,
I don't think Matt should.
I
use the
think
power
that's
tools either.
no.
Of us
not.
three, we should give Matt the power tools.
Hand tools only. No plug sockets. No plug sockets.
Going
No
back to, in
electricity.
fact, in that case, going back to tools. If you want to do the stupid shit I've done with an electric saw, yeah, just get yourself a hacksaw. It just takes
Get
a
one of
little bit
those
longer.
little hand saws where you wind the little wheel and it's like a recip saw, but it's made of hand.
Like the hand drills.
Hand.
Yeah, made of hand. You know the ones. You probably don't.
You know, yeah, we talked a load about like what to do when you first get your first car, and we've probably been going on for
Most of it's mechanical, but the other things are go out and meet people and drive it, but drive it sensibly, safely.
On the back of that, what I would say is find your local car club,
Definitely.
find their auto solo or auto test, and go and do your stuff there.
The
Because
best
I've
one
meant-
you can have for
I've
no
meant-
money.
So I've mentioned this before, and I met Bryn down there at an auto solo, and that's where we first met. But I did this with my first MX-5 because I had no idea how a rear-wheel drive car would act over the limit, or when I started pushing on and stuff like that. And I'll send you a picture of this. There is a great picture of me crashing through about 4 or 5 cones, sending them everywhere, and that was me finding the limits of my capabilities and the car's capabilities and how it would react and how it would drive on the road in a safe and controlled environment.
yeah. Don't
if
do
I was
what I
gonna-
do and find that out in a tree.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's another important thing when you're starting out at anything. When you're starting out with cars, or you're starting out doing a whole new show on YouTube where you get together every week and chat crap with your mates, just go for it. Enjoy it. Have fun. Yeah,
I think that's
we are the world's worst human beings at staying on topic.
that's quite an important point, because no matter what car we've got, no matter what we're working on, we're having fun doing it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is. We're having fun, unless you're doing an alternator on a Passat.
No, he enjoyed it. He just doesn't like to admit it.
I didn't.
But
Because
I
Bryn
think
is into some right creepy and kinky S&M shit.
I think though that with all your frustrations doing that, the success of actually completing the job outweighed everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have done if I'd succeeded about 2 hours earlier, but by the time I actually succeeded, what I did was came in and just died. So,
You're not
Bad
helping my
example.
point here.
but if I hadn't known how to work on my car, I would have been royally fucked.
Yeah.
And you'd have been probably 200 or 300 quid in the hole, having paid a mechanic to do it.
At least.
But you're saving a fortune doing a lot of this stuff yourself.
Absolutely.
Because I think I was quoted £150 plus parts, plus VAT, I think, as well, to have the rear discs and pads changed on my Mazda 6. I did it in 30 minutes at a cost of £46 to myself.
Yeah, there's you know there's a lot going for just learning the mechanics yourself. And when we're all back together and we're in a workshop with good lighting, I certainly couldn't do it in my place at the moment. So we're probably going to half-inch Matt's garage for a bit when he gets his new house. We'll just go through some of this simple stuff. We'll put out, we'll still do this chat show stuff, but we'll do some how-to videos. Fit some coilovers on some stuff and that kind of thing.
I think the first one we'll probably start with is servicing Nicole's Mazda 2. It's due a service. I think it was serviced just before we bought it, but it's not been serviced since we bought it. I think we're getting on for 18 months, so it's well overdue. So once we've got the garage, we can get the Mazda 2 out, and we can go through and we can say, this is how you go through it, and we'll put a guide up.
Yeah, I mean, servicing a car is servicing a car. It's the same. Put oil in, put new spark plugs in.
Yeah, like things will be in different locations, and every car is going to be slightly different, but the basic principles are still the same. And this is what I found trying to work on the Mazda 6 or the RX-7, because nobody modifies a Mazda 6. So finding a guide for anything on a Mazda 6 is nigh on impossible. And the RX-7 is so old that there aren't guides for it because the internet wasn't around when people were modifying it, and people don't buy it anymore. So learning the basics on anything allows you to go and do the same thing on a car that you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
I had no idea how the bumpers came off the RX-7. So I just looked at it logically and went, okay, there's some bolts across the top here. Then there's always some bolts down the side underneath the arch liners. And then there's always some bolts around the bottom. Undid all of them, pulled it a little bit, didn't come off. Okay, where's it snagging? Oh yeah, there's some underneath the little mouth thing where the air gets into the radiator. Undo those, pop straight off.
Do you mean the grill? Yeah.
Yes.
And at no point did you just yeet.
No, because I've done that before and snapped things.
Yeah, like parts inside my Honda Spike. and also learn to clean the thing, because you keep it clean and it doesn't rust as bad. Yeah, that's kind of that's the
face again.
So the reality is what we're saying is learn to service things, learn patience by doing body work and cosmetic stuff, then start playing with the proper mechanics of things. Get some decent tools, but if you can't afford decent tools, just get some moderately decent quality ones. So I've got a whole range of Halfords Professionals at my workshop. I have a little In Phase, I think it is, like the cheap Bogo Basics brand from Halfords toolbox in my house that cost 79 quid, but it has everything I need in it. It's got socket set, spanners, mole grips, all that good stuff in it. So it's a basic kit, but it would be the perfect starter thing to get going with. Get mates that are into it as well, because if you truly want to be a petrol head, you're gonna need people who understand that Saturday night is not... Friday and Saturday night aren't for partying, they're race prep nights. They're the night that you're loading tyres until 4 a.m.
I think on the back of having friends as well who know this stuff is don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's the biggest.
Because if you sit there and guess, you're going to get it wrong and make it worse.
Yeah,
and really importantly, if you can't find anyone local to you who's into cars, and you see that big old black, blue, and neon pink Violent Running flag at a show, just come say hello to us, right? We know people dotted all over the country. Just walk up and go, bam, I'm into this shit and I don't know anyone. And we'll find you someone. We will help you find someone. And if you're local to us, you can hang out with us. And you can still hang out with us at shows and events. Like,
at the end of the day, you strip all of those cars away, and everybody is the same. We're all there because we love cars.
Yeah. Yeah. What a way to end an episode. Get into it because you love it. Right. So thanks to everybody who's watched for, I don't know, however long this lasts. Should we take bets on how much I edit out this week?
Oh, there is 10,
Yeah,
15 minutes of content there that's worth using.
So Bryn's saying 10-15 minutes by the time I've chopped out the segues. I'm going to reckon half an hour to 45 minutes. Matt, where are you at?
I'm closer to an hour, I think. We've said a lot of good stuff that's worth keeping.
Says Dad.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
I mean, this is somewhat of a proposition bet because I edit the episode, so we're not going to put
So
money on
you're
this.
going to win.
Maybe
Edit
Bryn
it
will
to
win.
your-
Maybe I just feel like Bryn winning this week. It'd save me a lot of time if Bryn won. You know, but actually, guys, we really appreciate everybody watching. We really appreciate people who, since we launched this, have started subscribing. It's quite humbling to see the subscriber count grow by like 20% in 3 weeks. You know, it means we're going to keep doing this stuff. Yeah, we'll be back next week, hopefully with Milton back. So Matt, thanks for interrupting about 400 takes of the sign from this video. Look, we want to thank everybody that subscribes. We've seen a lot of new subscribers over the last few weeks. It does mean a lot to us. That videos, that counter, that the views being at over 5,000, we didn't expect that. We didn't expect to see that when I set that thing up. So we really appreciate those people who are spending the time to watch a whole episode of us waffling on for somewhere between half an hour as well. We really want to know what you guys want to see from us next. We really want to know what you want to see. You can check out Matt's driver video on the channel, Bryn's driver video on the channel, and Milton's driver video on the channel. There is a very old video of me doing auto solo in the MX-5 lurking right at the beginning of the channel. One of the reasons we don't have a driver video for me yet is I haven't been out on track in my MX-5 for a while because it's currently off the road. Yeah, we're still going to be here. The social stuff's been down the side of Bryn this whole episode. On his that stuff there. There you go, like some sort of magical dancing mantis. But just let us know what you want to see next. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you all next week. Guest spots that we spoke about. The first one I want to reveal that's going to be happening probably early next year is we're going to be talking about events in the car scene, and that's going to be everything from drift days, which these guys know a lot about, right through to show days. And for that, we're going to bring in a really good friend of ours who has put on the largest MX-5 stand in Europe a few times now at Silverstone. That's it from me. I've been Bam. He's been Bryn. He's been Matt. And there's been no Milton.